Hey, it's Benjamin Peng here. So in this video, we're going to talk about the settings that you can change in our software and how you can change take profit, how you can set your lot size and stuff like that. Okay, so I'm going to use Social Signal Trader as an example because all the other software, if it ends with Trader, they have very similar settings. Okay, so let me scroll to the entry configs. All right, so first of all, this section, it's all about entry, right? What's your lot size? What kind of take profit do you want to use? So the first setting is your risk, right? You can either set it to a percentage. So in this case, it's gonna be 1% of your account. Or a fixed lot size. So in terms of fixed lot size, let's say you want to do 0.2 lots, then you just type in 0.2. Okay? So meaning if you do percentage, it will actually scale with your account. Okay, so let's say we want to set to 3% of my account all the time. This one meaning it's going to use all the take profit from the signal. So if your signal has 3 take profit, then it will use all of them. If you set it to false, it's actually going to set your take profit to nothing. Meaning it's going to leave it open and then you probably going to close the trade using trailing stop, or you're going to do it manually, right? But this gives you possibility of leaving take profit, and you can adjust your trailing stop so that it will be ideal for you for your signal provider. So you have to test this out. But let's say we want to set it to true. We want to use everything that's given from our signal. Okay, so if we're talking about using 3% of our account for the lot size, and we have 3 take profits, so how do we allocate that lot size, right? It's actually configured here. So in this case, 50% of my lot size will be going to TP1, 25% going to TP2, and the other 25% going to TP3. Okay, so if you want everything to go to TP1, just do 100%, 0%, and 0%. Okay, it has to have 3 numbers in there, 3 numbers, and you can do something like this. So let's say you are setting it to a fixed lot size. You can actually do 0.1, 0.1, and 0.1. So as long as these 3 add up to 0.3, then it's a valid setting. So if you do 0.2 at the end, it doesn't add up, then if you hit OK, it will give you a warning. Okay, so let's go back to the regional setting. All right, so let's move on to signal filters, because sometimes some of the signals are outdated, they might be late, so you want to set something, a criteria, so that you're protected, right? You don't want to trade late signals and you get in and lose the trade. So over here, this settings allow you to skip any signals that you already have open orders with. So if you already have an open trade in EURUSD, right, and then you receive a new signal in EURUSD, if you set it to true, then it will skip it, right? So if you set it to false, then it will take whatever signals that's coming in. Okay, so by default it's going to be false. And if your margin level is below 150, then it's not gonna take any more signals for you. Okay, so very simple, not gonna take any signals for you. This is because just to protect yourself, because if your account goes below 100 in terms of margin level, then your broker is gonna close you out, right? So we want to set it to a little bit higher so that you have a little bit room, and that's what this setting is about. Okay, so entry price. So for entry price tolerance, this means that if you have an entry price, right? If you have a suggested entry price either for a market order or a pending order, if they are 10 pips away, actually 10 pips within your entry price, then it will take the signal. So if it's beyond, then it will not, because it will consider the signal to be late. Because why would be the suggested entry be so different from the market price, right? From the market price. So this 10 pips, is again the difference between the entry price and the market price. So I set it to 10 so that if the market price is like 10 pips away from the entry price, then you don't want to take the trade signal. Okay. All right. So for the next setting, allow empty entry price for market orders. This means that if there's no suggested price for a market order, if there's no suggested entry price for a market order, then it will this will allow the signal to go through, right? It will take the signal and place the trade. So if you set it to false, meaning if the trader that didn't put any suggested entry price, then you will not take the signal. I set it to true so that, you know, just so that we don't filter out too many signals, right? So we allow empty entry price for the signal. But if you know that your trader always put out a suggested entry price for market orders, then you want to set it to false, right? Because if they didn't give you a suggested entry price for market orders, then you know that the signal is probably wrong, right? They might have mistyped it, you know, maybe it's not a valid signal. So it's up to you. But the default is gonna be true. Okay, all right, so take profit tolerance. This means that your first take profit will have to be X number of pips away from your entry price. Because let's say you have your take profit, your first take profit is 5 pips away from your entry price. It's probably not a valid signal, because most of the signals you probably want 10 pips or 15 pips or even bigger for swing trades, 50 pips. So by setting this, you are saying that I need at least, for take profit, I need at least 10 pips. Otherwise, I'm not going to take the signal. Okay, and the same thing for stop loss tolerance. It's just so that sometimes, you know, trader put out type in the wrong digit or the market has moved already, and you want to protect yourself with these two settings. Okay, but the default is 0, so that again we don't want to filter out too many signals for you, but you can make the decision. Okay, now take profit override. So sometimes you know, trader have their take profit 1, 2, and 3, but you can actually override that. You can override that by pip, the number of pips. So let's say, you know, you want to set all the signals to take profit at 30 pips, and that's how you set it, right? You set it over here, put in 30, then it will do it for you. Okay, so now let's move on to the next setting, signal delay tolerance. So this means that if you first run the software and there is a signal in the past 60 seconds, then it will read the signal. So if you make it bigger, then when you first run the software, then it will search back into the past for you know, a longer period of time. So I set it to 60. It's reasonable. You feel free to change it if you want. So signal scan interval means that how often does the software scan for signals. So the default is going to be 10 seconds. I think it's enough. And for Telegram, you actually cannot go below 10 because otherwise you might get a block from Telegram, because they don't want you to, you know, constantly ask for new messages. So 10 seconds is very safe. Okay. And if you're using some other software, it might be fine to reduce it, but you know, just keep it as 10. So this one's symbol scaling factor. This means that if it's a 5-digit broker, right? If it is a 5-digit broker like this one, EuroCat, right? There's 5-digit after the decimal. Then you know that the last digit is a spread, right? So meaning there's only 4 digits. So by default, it's gonna multiply basically reducing from 5-digit to 4-digit. It's like multiplying by 10. So, you know, you kind of move the decimal point to the left. So this is just an example because, you know, all the Forex symbols are already handled for you. So we will calculate like take profit, stop loss, trailing. All the calculations will be based on a four-digit price, right? But in case you run into like cryptocurrency, crypto pairs, so and you want to manually override what we have, you know, you can do that. Okay. So so now let's move on to break-even configurations. So of course, break-even is, you know, as trivial as it says, it's break-even. So when do you want to trigger it, right? You can actually trigger it at take profit 1, 2, 3, or fixed number of pips, okay? Or disable it, okay? So for take profit 1, if you choose take profit 1 and set this to 100%, meaning it's gonna break even at exactly take profit 1, okay? But if you change this to 90%, it's gonna break even. It's gonna break even 90% from entry to take profit. So okay, give me an example. If entry is if the distance between entry and take profit is 100 pips, okay, it's 100 pips. So 90% would mean that it's going to break even at 90 pips, okay. And this allow you to kind of break even before it gets to a certain take profit point, because maybe the trader you kind of realize that their signals it's not it's not always accurate, and then maybe the price turn around right before take profit 1, and that's the reason why you want to set it to like a little bit earlier, right? 90%, and you want to break even and move your stop loss. So you can also do fixed number of pips, and you have to change it to a fixed number here. So you can also do like 50 pips. So if it moves from your entry price 50 pips, then I want to break even, and that's how you set it, okay? And this break even at pips, basically it will be moving your stop loss to entry plus 3, because you don't want to move it to exactly entry price. Otherwise, you're gonna lose the money on spread, right? So this is kind of to offset the spread that you that you pay for. So at least you make a little bit profit, right? Usually a broker has low spread, maybe 1 pip, 2 pips. So setting it to 3 pips allow you to at least have some money in the pocket and not lose money to spread when you are breaking even. Okay, and you can also set partial close. So let's say when it reaches 50 pips from my entry price, I want to close, let's say 50%, right? 50%. In this case, you don't have to type in the percentage sign here. Just type in 50, right? 50% of my lot size, okay? And that's how you set it. So in this case, you know that you will pocket some money because it reaches 50 pips, and you partial close 50% of your lot size. So all the half of your lots basically made 50 pips. Okay. Now stop loss configuration is, you know, very similar to break-even settings. Basically allows you to set a trailing stop based on certain criteria. So trailing stop is going to trigger again at take profit 1, 2, 3 or fixed number of pips, or you can disable it. Okay, so the logic is exactly the same as break even, but this is just when do you want to trigger your trailing stop. Okay, so let's say I want to trigger my trailing stop at TP1, again, you know, 100%, and you can even add you know, pips to your stop loss, meaning your initial stop loss let's say is 50 pips, and you want to add 5 pips to it because you know that the trader kind of have a very tight stop loss, and you want to increase that a little bit, and that's how you do it. But when we don't talk about trailing, how big is my trailing, right? And this is where you set it. Under exit data for trailing, there are two types of trailing. One is the traditional one, which is fixed number of pips. The other one is based on the fractal indicator. Okay, so let's go through the first one first. And the trailing, this traditional trailing will trigger for these time frames. Because if your trader is sending out kind of mixed time frame signals in mixed time frames, so they might not always be IM15, they might be like H1 or H4 sometimes. So this allows you to select kind of what kind of trailing logic do I want for different time frame, for different trades in different time frames, right? So for these time frames, I want to set a trailing stop to 20, right? And you can change it to 30, and this is it goes by number of pips. And if you if the time frame is daily, weekly, or monthly, then it will trigger the fractal. So let's say you want to trigger use fractal indicator on the H4, then you're just gonna move H4 to this cell over here, okay? And this then fractal trailing will activate for H4 in this case when it reaches tick profit 1. Okay, now if you're not familiar with the fractal indicator, Google it. It's basically, it kind of searches for your last high or last low, and it uses that as the your trailing. Where do you want to set your stop loss? Okay, and basically this is the setting for your trailing stop. And also we have settings that allow you to add a prefix or suffix to your symbol, because let's say you're on a Trader's Way, right? I think Trader's Way has a suffix to their symbol, so this is where you add it. If there's an I in your symbol or at the end of your symbol, then just type in I over here, okay, and then it will trade correctly. So if you don't put a suffix and your broker has a suffix in your symbol, the software is going to give you a warning, okay, and then you have to come in here and manually type in the suffix. Okay, now trading hours, this really means that when do you want to take signals, because you might not want to trade Sunday or Friday because the market open and closed, there's a gap, and you don't want to get into that situation. So this is where you set it. It will trade from 9 p.m. UTC on Sunday to Friday 9 p.m. UTC. Okay, so this is the default setting, and that's exactly when the market opens. So you can change it. If you don't want to trade Sunday, then you can just set everything to 0. So 0 to 0, meaning it is not trading anytime on Sunday, and let's say Friday. So you can copy and paste. Okay, all right. So this is how you can configure your trading hours. And moving on to other settings. So this description override basically allows you to set a description to your software so that it will print it on the chart. So at least if you're running multiple MT4, you don't know which one is which, at least this will tell you what is a certain MT4 is about. Maybe you're reading from a certain channel and you reading from multiple channels, so you can type in the channel name here, and so it will print it on the chart and you can see it, and you know what's going on. Okay, and the rest is basically very pretty obvious. It's changing the font size, color. This allows you to send an alert to your email or MT4 app if the software goes down. Then it will alert you. Okay, so you can set it to true and it will send you an email. And this one allows you to turn on or off the logs on the left hand side. So when you run the software, you will see logs coming out on the left hand side, and you can actually disable it. if you don't want to see it. Okay, and same for account info and profit info. Everything, all these info are printed on the chart. If you don't want it, you can turn it off. Okay, and the rest I will keep it the same. Again, this is warning, don't change it unless you know what's going on here. This is usually for me to help you figure out what's wrong with your software if it's not taking signals. So I would suggest not taking it. But the only thing you can actually touch is actually magic number. Okay, magic number is the default for all the software is different. But let's say if you're running two instances of social signal trader, let's say, you need to change the magic number for the second one. So let's say the second one will be like 334. It's because it's to prevent like overlapping between two different software. So you need to use a different magic number. And if you use the same one, the software is gonna warn you. Okay, so so it's not like you're gonna make a mistake, but just so you're aware, if you're running two instances of the same software, you want to change the magic number. Okay, all right. So that's all the settings that we have for our software that ends with Trader. And basically, what we're doing is automating signals from different sources of maybe like social media or maybe email. But in terms of entry, break-even, stop loss, the logic is pretty much the same. So hope you get a lot of value from this video on how you can actually configure your software to what you want and also maximize your profit. If you have any questions, send an email to support@freedomtradinglab.com, and have a great day.